Shalom, 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 shalom. Toda Rabbah, which means thank you very much for joining me. Still working on my Hebrew. See, it's looking better. I'm very happy to be here today on this platform to bring you word from Elohim Yahweh. As the heavens open up, I get visions of God. So I received the latest vision this morning, and I need to share this vision with both Jews and Gentiles and everyone else. Let me rehash my conversation with the people of God. The last time I was on this platform, I spoke briefly regarding the recent DNA testing of a collection of Igbo Jews in a southeast Nigerian town called Newi. I did raise some issues with that event because it was supposed to mark a major stride in the claim of the Igbos of their Jewish ancestry. But the way, in my considered judgment, the event was handled was not anything that made it look like a major event that it deserved to be seen. The scientists or the molecular geneticists went there in a casual format. There was no advertising. That the information was not spread out. I would have liked to be there myself, so that Igbos can have their representatives from all over the world to give their sample, if that's what we need to do to be able to prove our Jewish ancestry. But I did, litigate. I did litigate and interrogate the idea of using a DNA to make a determination whether or not the Igbos are Jews. If you ask me, it's those people who claim to be Jews who have flooded Israel from all corners of the world that need to be investigated. They need to give their DNA sample, because if you want to determine who is a Jew, I think it makes sense to do it across the board. But otherwise, you're going to end up with people who are not even remotely connected to Israel. You see them, over there in Israel, making all sorts of claims. So it's discriminatory, if you ask me, that certain races are being held in a different standard than others. If you're Caucasian, all you need to do is just show interest, and then you're granted aliyah, you're granted right of return. But if you're black, they gotta make you prove yourself beyond what is a standard. The proof is quite disproportionate. So that's the point I was trying to make. Even though the result of the DNA has not been released, whether it is positive or negative, I don't think we need that kind of inquiry to prove our Israelite connection or lineage. And I've spoken to quite a few Igbo people, and they have expressed the same sentiment, that this was a bad idea. And that brings me to the vision that I'm going to share with you today. As I was reading the book of Genesis, it brought me to the attention of the priestly order of Melchizedek, who was both king and a priest. Before he even handed the priesthood to Aaron, the brother of Moses, he was the priest, the Godo priest in all of Israel. And then I began to reminisce and ruminate over the circumstance of the Lemba tribe of South Africa, because I tried to make the connection. There was a major Y chromosome DNA Kohanim model haplotype scientific method investigation that was conducted over the claim of the Lemba tribe of South Africa around in the 1990s, and a lot of very important genetic molecular geneticists or DNA researchers took samples from the Lemba, some members of the Lemba tribe, because of course it's a research. It's not everybody that will be sampled. So they took a sample from the population, and then they also went ahead to take samples, comparison samples from Sephardic, Ashkenazi, and other Jewish populations, to compare, to see if there's a link between the Lemba tribe, the Bantu, and the other Jewish tribes of the Sephardic, Ashkenazi, Yemeni Jewish stock. And months or years after, a result came back with a match, a very, very strong match of Jewish affinity. And even within the Lemba, there is another group of the Lemba called the Buba. Within that, 1 out of every 10 of members of that population has a priestly order of Aaron. They are Kohanim, or the priestly lineage. That means they were the ones who were supposed to serve in the temple. They were supposed to be they were prophets. They were priests who were supposed to coordinate the activities, and they were scribes too, who were supposed to coordinate the activities of the temple. And to a large degree, they were supposed to be the liaison, or the medium between the God of Israel and His people. So almost 20-something years or so, the DNA confirmed their Hebrew roots. No one has pushed their case to gain acceptance between the rabbinate and the office of the Prime Minister of Israel, so that for those of them who are interested can be allowed. Those of them who are interested can be allowed to migrate to Israel. It's not every one of them that wants to be uprooted from their their Lemba roots, but there will still be a couple of them who want to go and perform their role as priests. Keep in mind that priest is a position of privilege and entitlement. Because the Jewish society is a hierarchical society. So if you're a priest, you're up there. So now I was thinking to myself, how in the world will some light-skinned people fathom the idea of a black man being a priest over them? Not that these people are not truly of the order of Melchizedek, because according to the law of Moses, the priesthood it's not transferable. You can't transfer it from one tribe to the other. It is called the covenant of everlasting priesthood. That means once you're a priest, you are a priest forever. You can't change it. And the scientific method has declared unequivocally, without question, that the Lemba tribe, members of the Lemba tribe, belong to the priesthood of Aaron. And right now, most of the people parading themselves as priests or Kohen are just, are impostors, because they didn't submit themselves to this same Y chromosome investigation to be able to stamp their authority on the priesthood. But this black population from South Africa have been making the claim that they are of the Israeli priesthood, and nobody will listen to them until when it became so vociferous. Their claim became so vociferous. Some moderate individuals had to go there to investigate. And not only did the geneticists investigate this issue, a lot of anthropologists, a lot of historians have gone to also confirm the Hebrew roots and lineage of these people through their spoken language. Most of their spoken languages have the same Semitic sound, phonemes, and phonic affiliation with the Hebrew language, because out of the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses a word is established, but yet nobody has been able to push their case so that at least they can go and begin to serve in the temple and in the synagogue. And because the remnant of Israel is still being left out there in the diaspora, the crisis between the Palestinians and Israel may not be solved until those who have the authority, like the priests, the members of the priesthood, who liaise between God and the people of Israel, have been left out until they are brought back into the fold, so that they can speak to God directly to end this crisis, so that Israel is already making progress. They can make much more progress. They can forget about war, because all Israel has known in the 50 years or so of its existence is just to fight off one war after the other. Fight one war after the other. That's too stressful. But if the priests are brought in, the Lemba priests, members of the order of Melchizedek, are brought in to mediate between Israel and God, God is going to decidedly end this conflict in hours. But if people who have been given the authority and the divine anointing to speak on behalf of Israel, because that's what the prophets and the priests did in ancient Israel, they will speak on behalf of the people to God and bring back word to God, because the people don't have discernment to understand the visions of God, or the words of God. Somebody has to break it down. Somebody has to discern it. For the children of Abraham. So this is something that is a very serious matter that Israel needs to think about. And if they make any attempt to keep stonewalling any attempt by the Lemba priests to take their right of place in the Israeli society, so that they can begin to mediate between Israel and God, these problems will continue to exacerbate. I know that some people are going to make apocryphal or false claim of priesthood, but God knows His priests, and the scientific evidence has gone to support the claim of these black folks in South Africa. Similarly, we gotta tie this with the claim made by the Igbo Jews of their Israeli roots, which a lot of people have dismissed as apocryphal. It's just of doubtful authenticity. But it's a claim that will never dissipate. It's not going to disappear. It's not going to go away. because when you know who you are, you're not going to go into hiding, because some people don't want to give you the support and scaffold you need to be able to join the mainstream Israeli society. I think the same thing happened with the Hebrew Israelites, group of African Americans who left from Chicago in the 60s and traveled through Liberia and ended up in the present day Dimona in Israel, where they have their their nuclear reactor. Several attempts were made to expel the group, even though the group claimed that they were originally from Africa. Their forefathers were Jews. So during the Middle Passage, they were all shipped as slaves. Now they have come to take their right of place in the Israeli society. Nobody took them seriously, but they persevered and they persisted. And now they have Israeli residence. And the next stage is for them to have Israeli citizenship. They have been stiffed and stressed out because they refused to be forcefully converted, in order to be able to receive immigration benefits. But because they persisted, because they know who they are Hebrews. They are, children of Abraham, Chukwu Abiyama. Now they have started to receive the benefits that is rightfully theirs. And I can generalize this further with a Hebrew synagogue in, I think in Chicago. It's called the Ethiopian Hebrew Synagogue with Rabbi Funeh as the rabbi there. When he started off there to run that synagogue, he was dismissed as an imposter. He was dismissed as just a fake, apocryphal, leader of a synagogue. But he persisted, and lo and behold, Jewish groups, had to go and seek him out, and decided to, to embrace him. So I think that's the way, Judaism works. You gotta persevere to make your case. Once you give up, then you have yourself to blame. So the Igbos, my advice to you is do not allow your conviction of Israeli affinity and lineage, to be dampened by cynics, people who dismiss you, people who say, oh, these are just black people who are making spurious and apocryphal claims of being, children of Abraham. I don't know if anybody, just wants to waste his time making a claim, and you might comfortably practice Christianity, where people embrace you and even give you resources. And I think again is Israel is a small country. Like Igbos are like almost 40 million people. Israel is a country of 6.6 million people, and they cannot fathom the idea of being overwhelmed and swarmed by that population. But I don't think that's even the point. The point is that many Igbos are already established in Igbo land. They just want to have a corridor to go and mingle and rub minds with their people, the people of Israel. So that's the vision God gave me about the Lemba people of Israel, and this is a very serious matter. I had to make some notes about this genetic investigation being led by Professor Tudor Porvic. I've read a lot about him. He's a very fine professor, very erudite, and very, very brilliant individual that conducted this genome investigation about the Y chromosome model haplotype. Other haplotype investigations have been conducted elsewhere, but not necessarily for the Kohanim. But it seems like the Lemba tribe is the front front and center of the Kohanim haplotype investigation to prove a Levitical lineage, with the children of Israel. And this is quite extraordinary because no other black group has emerged with this very, very important discovery about being members of the priestly group, other than the Lemba of South Africa. So this is the what I wanted to share with the people of Israel and Jewish Jewish population around the world, that we need to help some of these people who are interested in making aliyah. The Lemba. I'm not Lemba myself. I'm from the Igbo Jewish lineage. But if you can get the priests to go and take their place in Israel, they will be able to mediate between Israel and God will listen to his priest and bring this Israeli-Palestinian crisis to an end, so that Israel can make more progress than it has made. So until I come your way again, this is your Messianic pastor and priest, bringing you word and visions of God as the heavens open up. In the name of Elohim Yahweh, thank you so very much. Toda Rabba.